All right, folks, the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, continues to monitor police-involved fatalities across Jamaica. With me now is the Commissioner, Mr. Hugh Faulkner, and we will have a discussion about many different things. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. How are you?
Not too bad, Neville. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. INDECOM came into being in 2010.
In 2010.
And I think maybe most people know, but what is your role, really?
Right. The Indiccom Act, which governs our operations, indicate that the Commission must investigate the conduct of the security forces that lead to injury, death, or the abuse of rights. And when they say security forces, they mean the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Department of Correctional Services, and the JDF when they're acting in support of the JCF.
So if there's a shooting in Vineyard Town, how you know about that?
Right. The law requires the security forces, if there's injury, to advise us forthwith.
Immediately?
Immediately. And if there's no injury or death, then it must be reported within 24 hours.
Yeah. Have there been cases that, as far as you know, you have not been notified in due time?
Well, from time to time, never. Where any act is done to hinder or obstruct Indiccom, then our Section 33 that leads to a charge separate from the incident. And in our rulings for charge right now, we have breach of the Indiccom Act, one case, which is has been ruled for charge.
Yeah. Can you charge someone? Can Indiccom charge someone?
No, the Privy Council had clarified that matter. The Privy Council ruled that Indiccom is the investigative body and the prosecutorial authority for Indiccom is the Department of Public Prosecutions. So the actual charge is done by the internal unit of the JCF.
So you recommend to the DPP?
Yes,
that
but the DPP is not necessarily bound by our recommendation.
Okay.
But the
recommendation is to charge Neville Bell because him this one, so, or you just say, this is what we find, and you carry it to the DPP.
Right, we'll have a recommendation, but the ultimate decision is the DPP.
Okay. I said at the top about police fatalities. Can you give me the statistics so far in 2026 as opposed to what happened in 2025?
Right. In 2026, so far up to March 24, there have been 75 fatalities. This is one less than in 2025. So the statistics, January of this year was the same as January last year, 28. For February this year, there was 5 less fatalities, 23 compared to 28. And from March this year up to the 24th, there was 20 last year and 24. Overall, 75 fatalities so far this year and 76 at this time last year.
Let me go back to last year. Of that 76, did you think anyone needed to be sent to the DPP, for want of a better word when I say sent, or did you find that there was reason for this police officer shooting someone or killing someone? I don't know.
Yes. In fact, never you might find that there are some cases where there is sufficient evidence. And last year, and also in 2024, there were some incidents where there was sufficient evidence that in a matter of weeks, we could have submitted a file to the office of the DPP and charges were laid. You may recall there was a shooting on Windward Road, and that was a triple fatality, and that was submitted within weeks, approximately 2 to 3 weeks. There was also the shooting at the Ribbies car park, and that one, again, some of these matters were aided by CCTV. Where there are CCTV, the process moves much speedier.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons for accountability. We have been repeating our call for body-worn cameras to be utilized in planned operations.
Why is it not being utilized? Because I read recently enough that they acquired the cameras and they're putting everything together. So why has it not been? Because I actually see police officers with the body-worn cameras on.
Yes, I accept that.
Yeah, but why has it not been utilized?
The Indiccom acknowledges that there has been the disbursement of body-worn cameras, but primarily our observation is that the public safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch have been deployed. But we are saying, look at the data, be guided by the data. In 2025, the first 7 months of 2025, 51% of fatalities happened under planned operations. So we are saying the data should cause a redistribution of the body-worn cameras to the planned operating team. We have also analyzed, Neville, the 2 instances where the police indicate that the victim had pointed a firearm or had opened fire. In none of the cases that we had reviewed, it would have posed any danger for them to be wearing body-worn camera. So we are satisfied that the utilization of body-worn camera is not an impediment to safe operation by law enforcement. And we're saying life is the greatest gift. So if your data is showing you a number of fatalities in these particular operations, then it's only reasonable that the deployment should be there.
Yeah, a planned operation would mean that Neville Bell is a bad man, and them here say, I am a TVJ, you know, and they're coming for me, them organize, and that is what you mean by a planned operation.
Right, so the planned...
As opposed to what?
As opposed to, and you know...
them just drive past and
somebody open fire or something like you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, Neville, the planned operation provides the law enforcement body with choosing the time you go for Neville Bell, choosing the route, you identify where's the nearest hospital in case of injury, you decide where your breach team would enter from. All the tactical consideration would be within the purview of the security forces.
They should have on the body-worn cameras.
Indeed, indeed.
Let me go back to something when I asked you about convictions and stuff. What kind of percentage you guys have had?
Right. So as I indicate, Neville, our prosecutorial authorities, the DPP, now between January 1, 2024 and December just ended 2025, we received 57 rulings for officers to be charged. And for 2025, 33 was in 2025, which is the highest since Indiccom commenced operations. We have never exceeded that. The highest prior to that was 24, and this was in 2020 and in 2024. Assault cases, 30 cases of assault, the officers were ruled to be charged. 14 cases of fatal shooting where the officers were ruled to be charged. 7 shooting injuries, 2 road deaths, discharge of firearm, 2 road collision where injuries, the officers were charged in 1 case, and breach of the Indiccom Act. In addition to that, Neville, it's not only about court, discipline. So within the 2-year period, 48 cases involving 83 officers were ruled for discipline in 2025, and 41 cases involving 60 officers was ruled in 2024. So we are speaking of 143 officers ruled for discipline. So in addition to the court regime, there's also the disciplinary process. Additionally, the work of Indiccom also has resulted in officers being retrained for the negligent use of a firearm.
A charge and conviction is 2 different things, right?
Conviction is up to the jury or the
So in other words,
judge.
if you say a charge, they got 100 people charged, maybe it's not more than 20 or so get convicted.
Well, the charge never has to reach the prosecutorial threshold.
Okay, for them to be convicted.
For them to be charged and to be...
How are you seen in the com by the forces, the police force, and how are you seen? They have you as a little enemy, or have they now understand that you are important?
Neville, I think our directors of complaints regionally have indicated that there has been greater cooperation with Indiccom, which we are pleased with, because to have the highest number of rulings for charge, and they have been, I think both sides have matured.
Okay. We have an Indiccom everywhere in the world? When I say an Indiccom, I mean what Indiccom does in Jamaica.
There are similar bodies, but Indiccom is different in that the Jamaican version is an independent civilian body.
Okay.
In many cases, you have a political representative and a law enforcement representative.
Okay.
We have none of that to impede our independence.
And you are satisfied that you can get the job done?
Indeed. With our rising numbers of prosecutions, etc., we are satisfied. But we are still taking steps to improve the customer service, to improve equipment, and to improve other aspects of our operations.
Yeah. Good to see you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much.
Sit with me for a while.
Yes.
The Independent Commission of Investigations, he's the commissioner, is Mr. Hugh Faulkner. By the way, I want to say good morning again to my family. Apparently they're off this morning, so safe trip home, and God bless you all. I love you. All right, I'm going to go for a break. Second edition of News in 5 when we come back. Stay with us, please. Soon come.